I was an advanced lifter in my 20s and 30s, competing in bodybuilding, strongman, and powerlifting on both the national and European level. However, I struggled needlessly with aches, pains, and injuries, as well as balancing the rest of my life with my lifting. Knowing now what I do, if I could go back, I train completely differently. So whether you're in your 20s or 30s, or even if you're later to learning this like me, this might be the most important video you watch all year. I'm Faz. I've been training 3 decades, coaching for 11 years, and now at 44, I am genuinely in the best shape of my life, but only because I finally stopped doing the things that most lifters still waste time on. Today, I'm going to share with you 5 things to help your gains, and make sure you watch till the end because I'm going to show you the one thing I do as a coach that has allowed me to give my clients consistent and reliable progress, and you can learn and benefit from that as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. First one is fix your lifting technique early. You know, if I could go back, this is the very first thing I would correct. In my 20s and 30s, I was mostly interested in lifting for strength and power. So everything was secondary to getting the rep, getting those plus ones, whether that was my form or the volume that I did or whatever. It all went as secondary to just lifting the weight. Now, these are things that you can get away with if you're either younger or you're not very strong. But that's not a qualification to lift in that way. So for you guys, I would say sort your technique out now. It's not just about avoiding injury. It's actually about better muscle recruitment, better tension, and better growth. I grow better now doing this stuff. And again, this is stuff that I wish I had done when I was a lot younger. They say youth is wasted on the young, and it's so true. Right, number 2 is controlled eccentrics for more growth and less joint stress. In my 20s and 30s, everything was just fast and explosive. Quick reps, minimal control. It was all about getting the rep, basically just getting the weight from A to B. It was about training the movements. And now what I do is I train the muscles. And part of that is implementing 2 to 3 second eccentrics. Once you do that, everything changes. I can now stimulate the target muscle much better with the added benefit of needing less volume because my focus, my intent, and my precision with training is that much better. I'm training the muscle and getting the most out of it, not just moving the weight or training the movement pattern. Right, to number 3, you don't need to be sore or wrecked to grow. So when I was younger, because my body was more robust and I could get away with it, I would chase soreness. What happened to me eventually was that sort of insistence on doing as much as possible just so I could send that signal. It resulted in consistent aches and pains and eventually just burnout and my leaving the sport. I think if I had been more moderate, perhaps I would have stayed in powerlifting for a lot longer. But the fact of the matter is, you just need to do just enough to see regular progress over time. You shouldn't take it upon yourself just to do mounds and mounds of volume or whatever else just to send a signal. Do enough, systematize your training, and make sure you're tracking things, and then just do enough to progress. Do enough to progress and try and pull back. You know, if you're doing 16 sets per body part per week, maybe pull back a bit to 14. See if you still progress. If you do, great. Pull back again to 12. If you're still progressing, great. Pull back again to 10. If you're still progressing, great. You don't have to do the absolute maximum possible. It's a false dichotomy to think that more will lead to more gains, and that has been propagated by a number of influencers in the space, and it's wrong. Right, number 4, lifestyle shapes your physique much more than your split. So in that search for optimality, I obsessed over finding the perfect split, the perfect level of volume, and whatever else. Now, ironically, when I actually did some of my strongest lifting for powerlifting was also when I had an extremely busy and high stress job. The problem is my social life at that time was pretty much non-existent, and it eventually led to burnout. Training is just one part of the equation. The real progress for me came when I provided a lot more balance in my routine as a whole. I stopped hyper-focusing on just one area of my life, whether that was training or work, and I was just consistent with my training, my sleep, my recovery in general, as well as my social life and also my family. And you know what? To do that, you might need to compromise on what is optimal in the gym. It's one of the reasons why I call for moderation on this channel, because we're not just lifters, all of us. I mean, I'm probably the closest to being just a lifter than most of you guys, but all of us have responsibilities, have jobs, have other parts of our life which we need to fulfill so that we can have a rich and fulfilling and happy life. It's not all about gains. Sounds like blasphemy. So the next point is, don't just track your training. So we all should be tracking our training. Of course, that's just a given, right? Track your training, make sure you're progressing over time. However, what I think you should also do is plan evaluations every 12 weeks where you draw out conclusions from your training, maybe about volume or about exercises which are working for you. You should be doing formative evaluations, I would say roughly every 12 weeks, which is what I do with my clients. That means I can assess everything that's going on, see what's working well, see what areas are not working so well, and evaluate those and make improvements. It's a sufficient amount of time that allows you to do some training, which is substantial, and you're not micromanaging every week, but you can make regular changes if necessary. Like, just imagine if you were managing somebody at work, you would do formative assessments where you check on the progress. You'd maybe do them every quarter or at least every year. The fact of the matter is, there was a term that I coined a few years back, lifting amnesia. People forget what works. And this is especially true for advanced lifters. Advanced lifting amnesia happens a lot in YouTube. And you see it with guys who are on YouTube talking about what works for them now, not realizing that what they're doing now doesn't actually represent how they built their physiques in the first place. They forget all about that. All these guys talking about the value of length and partials and super high volume, you ask them what they actually did to build their physiques. And I guarantee you, it was moderate volumes and getting very strong. And on that note, on the topic of tracking your lifts, I want to just do a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, BoostCamp. BoostCamp is an app that lets you track your training. Now, it's a fantastic app. It is the official Fazlifts app. You can use the code Fazlifts for a free 2-week premium trial. And also there are 3 of my free routines on there, as well as 2 paid routines, which are fantastic. Some of my clients have had great results on those. So with that, I'm going to call it there. Hopefully you found that useful. And what I'll say is, once you've got those fixes down, the next thing that you need to know is how natural lifters should warm up to lift with intensity and longevity. So the next thing you should watch is my video on how to warm up for maximum muscle growth. All right, guys, I'm going to call it there. Hopefully that one was useful for you and it hit a note, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Take care.